Today's video is especially for students of Kathak. Chakkars or pirouettes, spins, are such a major part of our dance form. And we start learning it from the beginning, and especially Ek Pair Ka Chakkar we find is one of the toughest things to master. So why is that? And why is there so much mystery around Ek Pair Ka Chakkar? And why should it take so long to get there? I feel with Ek Pair Ka Chakkar especially, which is the single-legged spin which we do on our heel, I feel we are told just practice, 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 and it will happen, you will get there. But what are we doing when we are practicing? Are we being more mindful of certain parts of our body? It is you're engaging your entire body in it. So do you know what you're trying to do with your entire body? And do you feel that if you did know what you can do with your neck, with your arms, with your core, with your legs, with your feet, different parts, if we could be a little more mindful of how we are using these parts of our body, do you think maybe our practice could be channeled a little better, our efforts can be channeled a little better, and our practice can actually be more effective and more efficient and more productive? So I wanted to share some tips because I struggled a lot with Ek Pair Ka Chakkar. I used to blame it on my height. I'm 5'10", and I just kept thinking that as a tall dancer, it's much harder. Your center of gravity is higher as compared to a shorter dancer. But then how long can someone keep using an excuse? You have to eventually work around what you think are your weaknesses, and you have to figure out your technique, and you have to make it happen. So also as a teacher, I wanted a more structured way of teaching Ek Pair Ka Chakkar to my students. And so I have come up with a list of tips, and I do hope that these are valuable. Maybe most of you already know some of these things. At some point or the other, it is told to us. But maybe if you're still struggling with Ek Pair Ka Chakkar, perhaps there are one or two of these things that could be missing in your practice. So I'm going to try my best to list out some of these tips, and if you have any more tips that you feel could be helpful after you watch this video, I would love it if you could share that in your comments. So the first tip that I'm going to share with you is the importance of your axis. So you imagine, you know the word axis, especially with the earth. You know that the earth rotates on its central axis. Similarly, as dancers, you have to visualize that you have a central axis running through your entire body, from the crown of your head, down your neck, down your spine, between your legs, and going down all the way to your heels. So if you visualize this central axis, you also need to understand that you have to work on your posture. Especially when you start as adults, I think it's even more important that you do the right exercises to work on your posture. So for example, your chin, your neck is part of the axis too, right? So you don't want your chin to ever protrude. This is a very common issue that we face as adults especially. So chin back so that your neck is in line. Neck, your shoulders back, stomach in, back is nice and straight. Even your hips are centered and controlled. And this is basically what forms your central axis. Even your feet, you don't want them to go side to side. You want to be able to maintain your feet staying close together while you are spinning, and every time you land and you bring your feet together. So always visualize yourself in this straight, erect, tall fashion. And I find that this is an interesting, it's my point number one, but I think it's an important one. It's a little abstract, but if you practice it, I think it will help you. Visualize yourself dancing straight and tall. Okay, that's going to be my first tip. The second tip is going to be about core engagement. Okay, now what is the core? I'm actually going to make a separate video on this, but essentially your core is this entire trunk. It's not just your superficial abs, okay? It's this entire, your major trunk of the body. So the front abs, the side, even your back, your hips, your hip flexors in front, all of this comes under your core. So you do have to strengthen your core as a dancer, no matter what your style is. And that's pretty much a non-negotiable aspect of being a dancer. Because the stronger your core is, the less you are going to rely on the foot, the weight coming down on the feet. So if I don't have a strong enough core to hold my weight up, what ends up happening is this. You see, I end up landing this way. But if I know how to activate my core, so I pull my navel in, I hold myself up. You need to strengthen yourself regularly to be able to find ease and comfort in this. But keep your stomach in, back nice and straight, and then instead of landing this way, you can land without any weight falling on that foot. Okay, so your weight is lifted up against gravity. That's the goal. Okay, so the importance of a strong, strengthened core and a well activated core, so you're not leaving this kind of loose while you're dancing. Okay, very, very and most important tip. And it's not only for chakkars. The stronger your core is, the less you're going to allow your weight to fall onto other parts of your body, and in fact even injure yourself long term. So this is a very, very crucial part. So find time in your week, every week, to work on your core and to strengthen your entire body. Okay, my third tip is about spotting. Now, spotting is a concept that is used in ballet, as you know. And spotting basically means that you find one center point at your eye level, and that spot becomes your central focus. So the aim is that no matter every time you open your chakkar, basically, you find that one spot, and then when you spin back, you come back to that spot again. So every chakkar that I take, I'm fixed at that one point. So I'm not looking anywhere else. You don't want to kind of, you see that? Look around. I shouldn't see wall, window, painting, picture, tanpura, tabla, nothing. I should not be able to see anything in my room because I'm so focused on that one point. Now, how do you actually do spotting? It appears that the neck is moving, the head and the neck of the dancer is moving faster than the body. Essentially, all I am doing is, first of all, keeping your chin back so your neck is strong. But I'm essentially going from my neck in my right, turn to my right, and while I'm turning, I turn the neck to the left. So all I'm actually doing, it looks so cool and so complicated, but all I'm doing is turning my neck from right to left. That's it. So if you practice it without letting the head droop, remember, chin back, neck strong, and you're basically turning your neck and coming back. Okay, so it's the use of the neck. Again, this is something that you can maybe practice in front of the mirror because the aim is that you see your reflection again immediately, even before your body comes back. Okay, so spotting, very important. Next is going to be the arms. I think precision in your arm movements is an underrated part of maintaining that central axis and visualizing yourself straight and strong. It doesn't only come from this part, it also comes from how you hold your arms. So try to be precise with every movement, with which position you open your arms in. Some of us learn chakkars like this, where the left arm is slightly in. Some of us learn where your back hand is totally at the back. Whatever your technique is, find that one position, the right position that you want to achieve, and try to achieve it every single time. Okay, so we're trying to be very precise with our arms. Second thing is you want to pull your hands in quickly. Okay, so after you open, wherever it is, after you open, instantly pull your hands back in. The longer you allow your hands to drift outside, open, the more drag there's going to be, and according to the law of physics, you cannot move very fast if that drag is going to hold you back. So the quicker you pull your arms in, the more you're again depending just on that axis to kind of do that quick rotation for you. Okay, so pull your arms in really, really quick, from here and in, from here and in. And the last part about the arms is that you always want to make sure you come back to a good Utpatti Hasta position. And again, my back is nice and straight when I finish. I don't come back into a droopy Utpatti where my back is again not engaged, core is not engaged, arms have fallen. Sometimes when we haven't practiced enough, just the pressure of and the stress of one chakkar makes you, kind of like land like this. But then what are you doing with all of this? Look at that. No, every chakkar has to end as precisely as you try to start it. Okay, and this definitely, all of this takes a lot of practice, but try and work on maybe one of these points in every session, if not all together. So that's the arms. The next thing is going to be about the feet. Now, I have just figured out a method that I teach my students, and I hope this helps. So essentially what I do with the feet, you all know that in Kathak we always spin on the heel, okay, when we're doing the single-legged spin. We never spin on the toes, Okay, that's always a no-no for Kathak dancers. So when you're a beginner, you have to really lift your toes up a little bit so that the weight is on the heels. The more advanced you get and the thicker the skin on your heel becomes, the less you have to kind of lift your toes, and you'll just be able to spin really smoothly and easily with the weight still on the heels. Okay, but the weight on the heels is paramount. Now for the feet, what you're going to do is, watch this very carefully. I'm going to use my left foot to pivot to the back, like I'm making a T shape with my feet, and I'm pivoting to the back. Okay, so that's my step number one. When my arms open, my left foot does the pivot along with it. Okay, and then when I spin, my right foot comes up and down. Okay, now the more I feel that if you lift your foot appropriately, then you also have control with how it comes down. If you let your right foot kind of drag, I find, this, like that you don't have enough control over it. So try to lift your foot a little bit, like when you do your tatkar, and then bang it down. Okay, so pivot, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. Okay, so pivot in the first count, right foot lift and comes down. Okay, you want to try and come down in a V every single time, and you don't want the weight to fall on that foot. So again, the idea of strengthening the core again is very crucial, so that your weight can remain away from the floor and your foot and your leg aren't taking the pressure of every chakkar falling down on it. Okay, so you want to be able to bang that foot without the weight on that foot. Okay, so that's with the feet. Okay, now one very nice tip that I felt changed the way that I perceived chakkars, or the way I did it myself, and I then enjoyed seeing myself do it as well. I realized earlier that I used to do chakkars with this very stressed face, with like my eyes used to widen and my eyebrows went up, and I just looked like I was really stressed, like I'm like, please land properly, please, I hope I can finish this tukda on some without falling. That was the expression. Maybe I wasn't thinking about it that way, but it was just happening. And then Maharajji, Pandit Birju Maharajji, he said something that really changed how I saw it. He said that when you do chakkars, you should do it like Lord Krishna. So if you imagine Krishna dancing, you won't imagine him stressed, right? You always imagine this cool, calm, confident, very effortless looking chakkar. So although we are focusing on so many things in our body, I think the one last thing that makes it come together is when you relax your eyes and your eyebrows, and there's that stress doesn't show then. So relax the eyes, relax the eyebrows, eyes, soft pleasant expression, and it kind of brings this ease and comfort into the chakkars, and also it's much more beautiful to watch. So this was something that really changed the way that I looked at chakkars. And for the first time I started being okay with how I watched myself. Otherwise I was like this. This used to be my face, like, okay, but if you soften your eyes, slight smile, it's so much nicer and it even feels easier. So that's one tip. And the last thing, our gurus are right. Practice, practice, practice. At the end of the day, there is no shortcut. But like I said, if you know how to practice, and if you are mindful of some of these things like I've mentioned here today, it will definitely expedite that process a little bit. So Ek Pair Ka Chakkar is certainly one of the difficult and challenging things for a Kathak dancer. But I don't think it should feel so out of reach if you have a little direction for your practice. So that's the reason I wanted to share this with you. I hope that this video is helpful. And if you have any other tips that you find have worked for you, do leave them in the comments below, and I would love to hear from you. So thank you, happy dancing, happy practicing, and I'll see you again in the next tutorial.